Good morning, everybody. This is Penny, and this is Through Glass Eyes. This morning we have Mr. Mateo meeting or joining us. I apologize for that. Mr. Mateo runs a YouTube channel called COVID is Stupid. If you have not seen it yet, I will add that into the description when we're done. He has a very interesting and awesome twist to COVID awareness, and it's very worth watching. He brings in the humor and everything. Mr. Mateo, thank you so much for coming on and offering to share your story with us.
Well, thank you for having me, Penny. I appreciate the opportunity to be on the show. And from an even broader sense, thank you for having a show. Right now, our stories mean so much. And anything we can do to amplify each other's voices and shine a light on the struggles that long haulers are overcoming every day, those are spoons well spent. So, bravo to you. Uh,
Thank you so much.
Before we dive in, I feel it fair to give your audience the same courtesy heads up that I give front desk staff at any new doctor's office I go to. Throughout the conversation, you will see me having intense muscle spasms. They get worse when I'm tired or overstimulated or just crave the attention. They will look gross and painful, but only because they are both gross and painful. And they will look like spasms. It's alarming to watch, or they'll look like seizures. I promise I'm not having seizures. They'll pass in a few seconds. They also have a way of seizing up all the important parts in my throat that make talking possible. So you'll hear my stammer get better and worse following the cycle of the spasms. And this is all a long way of proposing a drinking game. Every time I spasm uncontrollably, everyone at home takes a shot of protein shake. Sound good?
It sounds perfect.
Excellent. Let's dig in.
All right, Mr. Mateo. Thank you so much for letting us know about that. Now, was that something that you were going through prior to COVID?
Oh gosh, no, this is all thanks to COVID. Easily one of my least favorite symptoms. Uh, I I like to joke that if I could just learn to spasm to the beats, it might look like I'm dancing. But so far, no luck.
We'll have to find you that special song. Maybe somebody can create you one.
I have a feeling Elvis is in there somewhere, but we'll workshop that.
Right, absolutely. So, Mr. Mateo, I'm so sorry to hear that this is a lasting effect from COVID. But the reason I asked is, can you tell us what type of person were you prior to getting the infection that caused this?
Penny, I was a lot. I was a lot. Wifey early on told me it was good this happened to me, not her, because I had always been one of the most annoyingly optimistic people she had ever met. And that trait is serving me well right now. I I was a talker. I rarely used 5 words when 500 will do. I was hosting a weekly webinar about health insurance. And if anyone at home is thinking, wow, Mateo, that sounds so boring, you're not wrong. Health insurance is awfully boring. So I took it upon myself to inject a lot of humor and optimism into my presentation style. Actually, I think it's fair to say I inject humor and optimism into most of what I do. Ah, so yeah, that was Mateo from the before times. I did not have this glorious long haul Lions mane though, or I hadn't since the late 90s. This I grew out again after I got sick, and oh, it's
I think it's a
just right.
wonderful style. Yes.
Thank you.
What you don't know is I have a pair of glasses holding mine down because otherwise it would probably look the same way. That's part of the joy of having the curly hair we have. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. And Mr. Mateo, when was your first known infection and how did you feel during that time?
Ah, first and only, because it only takes one if you do it just wrong, and I seem to have. November of 2020. And how did I feel? Uh, my Latin's not great, so I lose some of the medical terms, but I think it's is about how I felt, but I think that romanticizes it a little bit. Uh, it was it was bad. I joke because that's how I process, but it was bad. I I know there's a kind of COVID that one can get where kind of feels like a cold. They maybe lost sense of smell. Yeah, that wasn't the kind that I got. I was hurting. Fortunately, okay, take a shot, everyone. Uh, yeah, so that's what I was talking about. Fortunately, by about October of 2020, uh, uh, by about October of 2020, wifey and I had started socially distancing because I had returned to the office. So I moved into the guest room across the hall. And when I got sick, I went down and I went down hard. Uh, I ended up going to urgent care a few days into it. And that is only because the day after I got sick, I called my primary to change my mind about the anxiety medicine that he had recommended earlier in the year when I really started having a hard time dealing with the world, dealing with the dark specter hiding in every shadow and lurking behind every mask. But I wasn't ready to say, yes, I need that until I got sick and realized I couldn't even bring myself to going to the doctor, going to urgent care, uh, because I was so frozen in fear of the world at large. I actually is sitting in the parking lot of urgent care. My first time going into a place of business other than my own since COVID had begun. This was still when the doctors would ask you to wait in your car until you get a text saying it's your turn to come in. And I was sitting out there having a panic attack until I started laughing and realizing I'm the one with COVID. They have more to fear from me than I do of them. And with that realization came my last panic attack. I got in, and they, at the time, nobody really knew what the appropriate therapies were, what do we do? And it was a lot of symptom management. Not to say it's come too much far beyond that today, but at the time, let's hit the big ones. Uh, Antibiotics and steroids for the awful, awful coughing. And I did. I ended up going back to urgent care uh, the end of December because I thought I had a broken rib. I had a pain that would not go away. Uh, we did another set of x-rays and they said it wasn't a broken rib that they could see. And they said it was likely a torn muscle from all the coughing because coughing, wee. I got in to see my primary beginning of December. I had to wait 30 days from the date of the initial infection. So November 1st, no, I'm sorry, November 10th to yeah. Mm, 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 uh, mm, mm, mm. All right, drink everyone. Uh, so it's now December 10th, and I get to finally go in and see my primary. And I told him I wasn't getting better. I'd gone the 2 weeks that everyone said it takes. But if anything, I was getting worse. I had a few days at the end of November where I felt like symptoms were backing off, and I actually touched my family. Well, I had human contact for the first time in the 3 weeks. I touched my wife's back, and it was everything. uh, December 10th, I'm not getting better. And he said I was the second person that day who got infected November 10th and wasn't getting better. And I thought, though, wow, how about that? Uh, but there wasn't really much to do. Uh, more steroids, more antibiotics, codeine cough syrup, again, manage symptoms and try to offer relief, which I needed and I'm glad I received. I end up going home and I get a call from him that afternoon. And he said he had been thinking about me all morning. And over lunch, he called a pulmonologist friend and they had a discussion about me and presumably the other person from that morning. And they felt I was exhibiting the signs of something called a COVID long hauler. I had never heard of that. I had no idea. And I made the mistake of looking it up. Holy gut punch, Batman. Hearing that there were people from March that were still dealing with it. That was terrifying. And I had a hard time thinking of myself as part of that category. Ah, which I suppose, if we want to put a stage of grief label on it, I was denying. It didn't last long, though. Coughs that will not quit, boy, they get hard to continue denying. But that was the first I had heard of long COVID. And even though I really wished it would be the last time, turns out that was not to be.
I'm so sorry to hear that. I am very grateful, though, to hear that your primary care physician did reach out to somebody else and did talk about that. Now, from that time, what happened from there?
Well, I almost immediately started growing my hair out. Uh, that was happening anyway. It's a thing I do as a mammal. From there, I I continued trying to work. Uh, about the time I got sick, the whole office had been sent home again, where we remained until spring of 21. And I uh, ended up uh, going to this pulmonologist because, hey, it turns out I have a pulmonologist now. And uh, he was able to tell wifey and I more about long COVID as a concept. What are they seeing? What are people doing? How are we treating it? And most importantly, what do we do? What should we do? Uh, he suggested we contact the long COVID clinic that the University of Iowa had started, and we did. I was accepted there, and as much as I wanted to drive right over and say, help me, the appointment wasn't until February. So I had about a month and a half to wait at this point. And in that time, I pulled a nebulizer that we had uh, in the closet. I pulled that out. My primary gave me prescription for albuterol, and then pulmonology gave me a couple of different inhalers, and trying to do what I could to manage the cough so I could sleep, so I could regain some strength. And anyone who thinks any of those three things were going well, uh, mm, not so much. I applaud your optimism, but not so much. When I got to the long COVID clinic, the intake was incredible. It was a 45-minute conversation with a doctor dedicated to treating long haulers. Wow. And he didn't just ask about the obvious things, the coughing, the sleeping, the pain, the light sensitivity. He asked about a lot of things that hadn't even occurred to me. Asking about energy levels after exertion, talking about uh, ringing in the ears, not just loss of smell, but altered smells. What I didn't realize is that through long haulers from March, there was a a quickly growing list of symptoms that we all seem to be experiencing. Not necessarily all of them at once, because, dear God, but we all had our own grab bag of symptoms. And he was asking about what my particular lottery pull had for me. And I left that appointment, both wifey and I left that appointment feeling heard. Not that we hadn't been heard from primary or pulmonology, but heard from someone in a, a starched white coat and a name tag and everything that seemed to be asking intelligent questions about what I was experiencing. That was so encouraging. Uh, from there, I got referred to respiratory therapy, which I didn't know existed. But I started going, and a couple of times a week, I would ride on a stationary bike, and every so often tell the therapist how hard I felt I was working on the perceived exertion chart. So I'd tell them 1 through 10, what color am I today? And when I started, the first few appointments, I was on load one, which I imagine uh, a grade schooler could have done with equal aptitude. My arms and legs were that weak. I came home and they recommended a home workout program, and I had 2 pound weights at home, and they were too heavy. So I lifted soup cans and all of this, everything I was doing, and everything that I was discovering, my definition of a starting point is not matching up with reality's definition. It was humbling to be setting aside 2 pound weights in favor of, actually, it wasn't soup, it was bouillon, chicken and vegetable bouillon. And that was what I was doing. I would do that. I would uh stretch. They told me stretching was very important. And uh a subsequent visit to the long haul clinic put the idea of breath work into my head. And I started listening to meditation music and breathing very slowly along with these long melodic tones. A lot. I used them to fall asleep. I used them to fall back asleep. I used them to take naps. I used them to settle my body down after a particularly painful coughing fit. And the next big change that happened was that respiratory therapist telling me, I'm going to call your doctor and we're gonna pull the plug here because I'm not making you better, I'm making you worse. She was watching it happen. And I mean, knowing what I know now, what I think so many of us know now, she was probably right. And kudos to her for recognizing that early 2021, when long haulers were still being shoved into the traditional physical therapy model, which is combating deconditioning. And this is not deconditioning. There is something mechanically wrong. So I found YouTube to be a helpful resource until I got referred to another physical therapist. My primary, he felt very strongly that some form of physical therapy would be critical. And the rise and fall of round two went faster than respiratory therapy. Uh, we're stopping this. I'm making you worse. I'm going to call your doctor. I started finding a growing number of physical therapists who were long haulers on YouTube and listening to them talk about their experience and started to learn some of the shared language that all the physical therapists were using. Graded exercise, deconditioning, uh, the perceived exertion chart, finally understanding what that was and where it played a role, and seeing more and more therapists saying it can't be the traditional PT model where you're here, we want you here, so we'll work you somewhere in the middle. That takes us backwards. They said, you're here, you want to be here, but you're here. So start there. And I went to a third physical therapist and explained, I don't want or need to pay you to watch me exercise a few times a week. I need a partner to help me create a home program. Uh, and I need you to believe me. If you can do that, then as soon as I get home, I will work my butt off for you. And the next time I come back, we'll make whatever adjustments we need to. And this therapist, he had heard of long COVID, but didn't know much about it. But he told me, before you come back, I'll find out. And when I came back, he showed up with receipts, Penny. He had printed out a slide deck from a webinar for physical therapists discussing the emerging science behind treating long haulers. And holy cow, I mean, talk about the medical world throwing a warm blanket over my shoulders. This was amazing. Ah, and I stuck with him as long as I could. He ended up leaving the area, but left me in capable hands. And so therapy, physical therapy was part of it. Regular visits with primary, part of it. And I didn't have the typical, sadly, typical experience with primary. I already said, you're right. It's wonderful he called me. He was very open to other people having a better idea. He was open to wifey showing up with a folder saying, we've brought you data. These are papers that have been written about so and so. We can email them to you too, whatever's going to be easiest. And the next visit, he would have that additional body of evidence in his head. Uh, and that's not what most people are experiencing. And it breaks my heart that most are fighting their doctors, fighting the people that they are seeking for help. And I consider myself very fortunate because he set a very welcoming and collaborative tone, which I then insisted everywhere else that I went. And if someone wasn't able to work that way with me, okay, I will go somewhere else. Uh, the other big thing that happened health wise is mental health. Hosting a webinar about health insurance in 2020, uh, I ended up becoming the voice on the screen who was telling insurance agents around the Midwest, this is what COVID is. This is what the insurance companies are doing to help help your clients. And I was constantly knee deep in in the science, in the stories, in the changes. And that took a huge mental toll. It was summer of 2020. I didn't get COVID until November, but I think it's fair to say by summer, I was sick. Not here. I was having a very hard time keeping it together. And that's why my primary had offered the anxiety medication, to which I said, no, I I think I'm okay. I wasn't ready for that. But by about October, I said I'm not okay. I told wifey I'm not okay. She knew it, kiddo knew it, and I started seeing a therapist for the first time in October. And when we started, it was to help with this hypervigilance and inability to uh, categorize risk from low risk to medium risk to high risk. No, everything was extreme risk. And I was terrified and I needed help. After getting COVID, after coming out the other side of the acute phase, and quickly I'm falling off a cliff, both physically and cognitively. Mm, 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 ah, mm, 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 ah, mm. Uh, time out. Uh, Falling off that physical cognitive cliff, I was trapped inside my own shell of a body, like Han Solo in Carbonite, frozen from the outside world. And it was then that my therapist told me that one of her specialties was working with people who had traumatic brain injuries. How about that? How fortuitous. And the shift in my therapy, because like I said, that parking lot, the first visit to urgent care, that was my last panic attack. And so my focus shifted from hypervigilance and managing the fear to making sure I don't spiral down the drain of depression, which is so easy. And there's a reason that so many long haulers are dealing with anxiety and depression. And there are lots of reasons, and they're all damn good ones. This is awful. We are suddenly no longer the person that we remember. And that's hard to deal with. Very hard. And I'm very glad that I had help. And we continue. That's still the focus. Uh, a story I'd like to tell about my therapist. I remember asking her, "Do you think I'm depressed?" Because at every new doctor's office I was going to, I would take the depression screener, and I don't know if it means that I passed or I failed, but they all said the same thing. They said, "Hey, congratulations, you're depressed." But I don't feel depressed at all. Uh, Even though I'd answer yes, 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 yes to everything except would the world be better without me, I'd write in hell no. And she, rather than answering, she said, "Well, I can tell that this is on your mind, Mateo, because this is probably the fifth time you've asked me that same question, and the fifth time we've had this discussion. I still don't remember times 1 through 4. I still don't remember most of 2021 and big chunks of 2022. But I believe her. I absolutely believe that I had asked 4 times already, and this was time number 5. Uh, Memory was a huge issue. It's gotten better, as evidenced by the fact that in the course of our conversation, Penny, I will likely remember what we talked about at the beginning, even when we get to the end. Mm, mm, uh, mm, mm.
Uh,
Ah,
that just looks so painful. I can't even imagine. How far in did that start? Did that start at the beginning?
no, they've migrated. They've migrated. It started in my fingers, then wrists, then left shoulder, then uh, left leg, then right leg, then both hips, and it moved into my trunk. I'd say mid 2023. And they moved their way up. And when they made it to the abdominal muscles, I guess I'm just chubby enough that's a nice, comfy place to stay because they got there and they did not move. And yeah, they get bad, and they do. They make it very hard to speak clearly. Uh, my secondary doctor, for uh, a multitude of reasons, who I adore. In one of our visits, he watched me having a full body spasm and asked, what would I think if he told me he thinks he could do something about these? I said, let's do it. Sign me up. And he said he uses Botox for Parkinson's patients with seized limbs. And he wanted to see if uh, injecting Botox into specific muscles could offer some relief. And I asked, well, that sounds amazing. I do have a question. What are some of the potential risks? And he said, well, why? I said, are there any risks? And he said, well, Mateo, I'm taking a substance that if I had 2 cups of it, I could kill everyone on the planet. And I'm going to inject some of it into you. So, yes, there are inherent risks. And that is on the list of things I love about this doctor. That is the bedside manner I need in my life. So every 3 months, I get Botox, which was not anywhere on my long haul bingo card. And we change it around where we're putting how much and uh, try to manage it. I had them, I had the shots a couple of weeks ago, so I'm just ramping up with the efficacy. So you still get to watch some of it and take those shots of protein shake. By about day 30 to 60, if it's dark, if it's quiet, if I'm alone in my room, I can control them. I have mental control over these muscles. Then it starts sliding back down towards day 90. But even having that month and a half of relief in the middle is incredible. And we'll keep playing around with dosages and the muscles we focus on until we get to a point where they are as controlled as we can make them. And I'm again so thankful for this doctor. He's a doctor of physical therapy, uh, a physical therapist and occupational therapist who both said we're done. referred me to him, and he's been wonderful. He also uh, shows up to appointments with ideas. The first year I was seeing him, he was pulling things out of my medical history from years back and saying, let's talk about this. And uh, he's been very willing to uh, let my primary take lead, very willing to uh, refer to primary, but also bring his own thoughts to the discussion. And it, I across the board, I have a care team that I feel I've worked hard to cultivate, uh, very much with wifey's assistance. Uh, her bringing in that research, sharing information with the doctors, and being very upfront about this is what you're doing. You are one cog in this big machine of my healthcare, and making sure they know what all those other cogs are doing, and also making sure that they never know that I call them cogs. Uh, but yeah, that's not the typical experience with the medical world. And I have had those horrible interactions. I have had the doctors who I will never see again, and wifey and I have very rude nicknames for. I have uh, neurologists that I will bite my thumb at if given the opportunity, but I don't spend a lot of time there. I don't spend a lot of time on what didn't work and who wasn't helpful. I don't have the energy for that. I get it when I hear it happening, but I don't have the spoons to spend on being angry, whether it's with a doctor, whether it's with uh, family, friends, or the world at large, or my fate in the cosmos. I can't. I have too much that I have to do today to give myself an easier tomorrow. I can't spend the energy worrying about tomorrow or shaking my fists at yesterday, because both actions rob me of spoons that I need today.
Absolutely. And that's very, very important for people to realize. And even for me, you know, I've been going through a lot as just like as well as everybody else, health wise and everything. And I tend to get very upset when I'm sitting in front of a doctor that gives me the blank stare, or I went to an emergency room on Sunday and, the doctor totally, I didn't like the way I was treated. I went to a different one that I normally do because it was closer and stuff. And he just treated me really rude. And then I was telling you about this prior. I have this horrible pain in the side of my face, and it's been horribly painful since Sunday. And why I went to the emergency room. And He was very rude to me even before we got the CT scan back. He was like, "There's nothing wrong with you." I looked at the CT scan, and then just before I'm about to sign the release papers to leave, he comes in and says, "Oh, you have a benign tumor. You're going to
What
want to
the?
see a neurologist." Yeah, so I went to my oncologist and dropped my disc off to him. And he looked at it and sent me a message to my chart last night. He's like, "You have a severe sinus infection. Did they not give you anything?" And I was like, "No." I said, "This is what he told me." He's like, "He should have referred you to an ENT, not a neurologist, because of where it's right in my sinus cavity, I guess, right here." And I don't understand it all, but it hurts like heck. And it's hurting into my neck and my ear. So a minute ago, I took a pill because
Oh,
I'm just in so much pain right now. But I, I get so discouraged. And I have a new PCP. And my very first question to her when I sat down in front of her, I was like, "What do you know about long haul COVID?" And she said, "I'll be honest, I know nothing, but I'm willing to learn." All right. So
ooh,
you're willing to
very
learn. I
nice.
love that.
Yes,
Yeah, so
yes.
when she told me that, I was like, "Okay, I'll stay with you because you're willing to learn." And when I see her, I'm like, "Hey, I got some more research if you want me to email it to you or whatever." And they kind of look at me funny, but it's serious stuff. And I'm finding by talking to different people, we are getting more um, from learning things ourselves, not necessarily you because you have some amazing doctors, but your wife did that research and took it to the doctor, and you guys are still compiling, I'm sure, just like the rest of us. So when we go to doctors, we have certain expectations, and I've walked out crying before because of the blank stare or you look fine, all your tests are coming back normal, but I'm not fine, and that's probably the hardest thing to deal with is, we look fine, most of us. Some of us have, like, I can't walk straight. I can't stand up straight. I mean, I can sit here, but the whole time my back is killing me. I've got something to lean against, and I move back and forth because of the pain that I experience that way. I don't have twitching like you do. I do get the curled arms. I get weird pains in my arms and my shoulder. And as you're talking about that, I'm like, I hope this isn't, going to turn into, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, but as hard as you're dealing with it, I'm hoping it doesn't turn into that because it seems like I've been dealing with a lot, we all have. And then we run into some beautiful human like you that didn't ask for this either. And look what you're doing, and you're not letting it hold you down, and you're not letting it get to you. And I'm sure you have moments. I have my moments too. But it's good that you're coming and you're talking to us and you're sharing with us and you're being raw about it. And that's what I like about this. And that's why I'm doing this, is because people need to know the raw details to all of this, the raw facts. This is what's happening to us. And
Absolutely.
as you're
And
talking about go ahead. Go ahead.
on that point, Penny, because it's an important one. Uh, people needing to hear the raw, people needing to hear that others are dealing, if not with the same, with similar.
Right.
We need to feel that we're not alone in our pain. And there's a great comfort in feeling seen, feeling heard, feeling understood, and feeling less alone, feeling like you're part of a community, a horrible community that I really wish none of us belong to because, ugh, but a community nonetheless. And I said it at the beginning, but I'll echo myself that I think is one of the reasons that this program is so important. What you're doing is highlighting the stories of fellow long haulers. And there are people listening who will say, I had that too. I've heard of that. I dealt with the same thing with my doctor and come away from the experience feeling a little bit better about themselves and their own circumstances. And if that is the only thing you accomplish with this program, which I doubt it will be, but even if it were the only gift you gave to the community at large, it is still worth a king's ransom and then some. So again, thank you for what you're doing for the community and sharing these stories.
Thank you for coming on and sharing it. And when we were talking before the recording, you asked me why I did this because I was alone. I didn't know anybody else. I run a nonprofit. I got 4,000 people on my Facebook. Not once did I post on there and mention anything about COVID and anybody say, hey, I have that too. So when you see the statistics that 1 in 5 people have that, well, how is that possible if I have 4,000 people? And then you think about the algorithms and all that, but I just knew I wasn't alone. And, but I felt so alone because nobody understood or they tried. I mean, my mom is doing a wonderful job trying to understand, but she doesn't live with me. She doesn't see it every day. She sees me having to use a wheelchair when I go to the doctor or something like that. But unless they're living with you and they'll never really truly understand even the struggles that you have to go by yourself, because I did that for a very long time. And one of my friends moved in to help me, and now my daughter's here to help a little bit and stuff. But it's very lonesome. It's very hard. And I did this because I love talking to people and I can't be in public talking to people. But now I can say, hey, I can talk to you. I have a new friend. And hopefully other people will feel that way just by listening to our stories on here.
Hi, friends.
Absolutely. Welcome, new friends. And when I put it out there too, I say welcome or, COVID friends because we're the ones who can relate with each other. We're the ones who know what's going on or can be compassionate about that. You were
Oh,
talking about the Botox earlier. I have been getting such bad migraines, and I get Botox every 3 months. And she does a really good job going through my head and onto my shoulders and stuff. I wish I sometimes could go further down in my back, but maybe that's something I'll talk to her about to see if she would be interested in doing just because of all the pain. I get a lot of pain in my shoulders and under, like down to my shoulder pain, blades. It feels like those muscles are always, always overworked. And it's been like that for a very long time. And then my daughter is really good at massaging, but if she touches it, it feels like it's like stabbing me. So I can't even have her rub it because it hurts so bad. It's the weirdest stuff. So everything that we learned growing up or whatever, keep going, get a massage. That doesn't help with me. It makes it worse and it makes me crash. Just different things that the doctors do sometimes will make me crash. And it's just crazy how that's happening.
and hearing a story like that the one place you hurt is the one place you absolutely cannot be touched, or that massages cause us to crash. That to me serves as pretty strong evidence that the universe has a pretty sick sense of humor.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's crazy.
Uh,
You
if you
you were oh, go ahead.
if you don't mind, uh, on the topic of sense of humor, do you mind if I spend a couple minutes there?
Go right ahead. I would love that.
Early on, I I told wifey and kiddo that we need to keep laughing. We need to keep making fun because if we didn't, this would swallow me whole. And it's certainly not being glib or flippant or diminishing the gravity of what we're dealing with. Uh, it's making sure that I can deal with that heavy gravity and still make it to tomorrow. I had a week at Mayo Clinic, early spring break 24, and I got to see all the ologists, and most, if not all of them, commented on my attitude and how important it is to keep a healthy attitude. Still smiling, joking, laughing, etc., etc. To their credit, none of them even implied that I could joke and laugh my way out of this, but they did. They all commented on that attitude, and we are constantly joking in this house. And one of my favorite lines from the past 5 years comes courtesy of Kiddo, who told me, Dad, when I push you on your wheelchair, people look at me and they say, Aw, what a nice little girl. But when I push you off your canes, people look at me and say, Ah, what a mean little girl. I just don't know how to win. And that, I think, illustrates the dynamic that we have chosen to maintain. It's it's not for everybody, and I recognize that there are a lot of long haulers or people standing next to long haulers who aren't ready to laugh right now. And I get it. I absolutely get it. But when you are, look me up.
Absolutely. You talk about your kiddo. Mine is in her, oh Lord, I don't even know. I think she's a junior now. And I say think because she graduated with her associate's degree and she's been at college for 2 years. But she didn't actually get considered her associate's degree at first. Anyways, um, I, I, her high school years, I was sick, her junior, senior year, and I feel bad. And because her other sisters, I have three daughters, the other two had my, everything. I was there for them with everything, all the way from elementary to high school to graduation. And then here comes this beautiful one that didn't get that attention for probably half her sophomore year and junior and senior. And I'm not talking about a normal kiddo. She went to a special school, graduated seventh in her class. She's amazingly brilliant. And I feel like because of this, I was robbed and she was robbed and still kind of gets robbed, right? How the humor, is that what helps your kiddo deal with this? Does she ever have that issue where she's like, Dad, I wish you were normal?
Thank you for sharing that. That's hard. That's very, very hard.
Sorry.
Parent, oh, good gravy. Don't you dare apologize. Don't you dare. Uh, the only reason you're getting emotional is because you care and because you're a good person. Uh, the parental guilt is real. The the spousal guilt is real. The friend guilt, employee guilt, maybe less so, but the guilt is real and it's hard. There's no way around that. It's hard. But then when it's about our kids, that is a whole new level of guilt because, like you said, you wanted to give your daughter the same that all their sisters received and all that you knew that she deserved. And the way you phrased it, you were robbed of that ability, that opportunity. That's that can be devastating. Uh, and you asked if the humor is how part of how kiddo manages. Yeah, I think so. I don't know if it's fair to for me to speak on her behalf, but that's kind of always how we have interacted with the world at large through humor. When she was going into middle school, Wifey and I sat her down and we had to have a big girl conversation about sarcasm because she was wielding sarcasm with a master's level, and middle schoolers might not get it. So be careful. And now she's in high school. Uh, Sounds like it's the same age as your daughter when you got sick, junior in high school. Which, now that I'm saying this out loud, to anyone who's doing the math in their heads at home, yes, this means that a fellow with severe brain fog and cognitive impairment and maybe a touch of brain damage taught her how to drive a car. Whew. Uh, but it is very hard on her. We were always very close, still are, but it's different now. It has to be. I don't go on family vacations with wifey and kiddo. They tell me they wish I could come, and I wish I could too. And it's certainly not because I don't want to be there with them. It's because I love them and I want them to have a vacation from me and everything that comes with me. And they when I tell them that, they'll say, "Oh gosh, no, please, no, don't think of it that way." And I tell them I will anyway because I'm a jerk. And I want them to be able to go and have that time where they can be normal and healthy and able-bodied. Normal is not a great word in this circumstance, but healthy and able-bodied are. I want them to be able to go and have the experience without the burden of making sure it is accessible, making sure that it's not too bright, too loud, too fast, too whatever. I want them to go and have that time to enjoy themselves without an asterisk next to it. Feel their spirits, and then they can come home refreshed and ready to put up with my crap. But it's hard.
And it is hard. And it's funny, the word burden,
It's a loaded
that's
word,
how I
isn't it?
feel. It
Mhm.
is. It is. And that's how I feel. And I know that's how a lot of people feel
Yeah.
because they don't have, people that really understand, or they can't relate. Our families can't relate. You have a wonderful family that's there with you, but they don't understand the actual feelings behind it. Like you said, you want them to go have a normal life or do things and not have to worry about you. And that's the hardest part, I think, is because in my instance, I feel forgotten sometimes, but
Sure.
it's not anything they're doing because they're living their life, right?
And we're happy for them that they are.
Absolutely. It just makes it hard because we want to do it with them.
Mhm. Yep.
And
And
I've
by all means,
lost a lot
continue.
of friends because I had to stop saying yes to everything, so I can't be that yes person anymore. So I don't hear from people, and that's hard too. And then the emotional part of it, when you hear, well, she's not doing well, so we're not going to invite her to do things and stuff like that. That's hurtful too. And they may not mean to say things like that, but that's how it comes across. And then you don't want to even be around them, because you don't want to be that burden on anybody.
You know, a lot of people are too polite to ask why we have backpacks on the back of our wheelchairs. And it's just as well, because if they did ask, we'd have to explain that's where we carry our burdens. And there's a little pocket on the side specific for our guilt. And over here, there's one for our water bottle. But yeah, it's heavy. And while no, our families may not understand because they're not experiencing it. And we hope they never have to.
Right.
Much like your doctor that you mentioned earlier, they're willing to learn. They're willing to listen. And some days, listening is enough.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What should we talk about next, Penny?
We've we've gotten so emotional, and this is the first real emotional, talking about that part interview that I've done, and I'm not saying anything bad about the other, but to have that raw, I really appreciate that for making me feel comfortable enough to talk about it. And then, just having somebody talk to about it so other people can feel, know that we do feel that guilt and it's okay to feel the guilt. We didn't ask for this, but we just have to roll with the punches. I've learned I'm still learning. My kiddo was just home from college for 2 weeks and she's in New York, so it's far away from where I am. And I want to go visit her, but then the plane ride makes me just, the whole part of it is just, I can't drive it. I know that. I can't, an hour in a car is exhausting. And that's a good 26-hour drive if I were to drive it. So that's not possible. And then the thought of trying to navigate an airport, oh my goodness, I can't even imagine that right now. So there's just, it's a lot. It's a lot that we have to deal with. And, the
For a
raw part
multitude
of
of
it is
reasons.
this is it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You said something I really liked there that it it's okay to feel it. Uh, and yeah, I would even take it a step further. It's okay to feel it, and it's okay to say it out loud. It's okay to acknowledge it. It's okay to talk about it. If you weren't feeling a certain kind of way about being a long hauler, I would be inclined to check your references and uh, call just make sure you really are long hauling because this comes with a host of human feels. I think something that I know I learned through this, and I've heard other long haulers express those feels. They cost as much or more energy as walking across the room or trying to take the garbage out or trying to do math in your head. Doesn't matter if you're spending a physical, a mental, or an emotional spoon. It's all coming from the same energy bucket. And if we overspend, now we're borrowing from tomorrow. And that's all the less we'll have to get through that day. So, almost as a defense mechanism, in the same way many of us don't go to the airport because, oh my God, when we aren't able to do the jobs we used to do, we often don't feel those feels. And some of that, perhaps a lot of it, may be the anxiety and depression meds that so many of us are on to keep us from spiraling down the drain. But what you said, it's okay to feel it. I want to embroider that and put it on a pillow and send it to Texas because Penny, that was beautiful. Yes, it is okay to feel it.
In our lives, we get so many things suppressed, what you went through in your childhood, oh, that's in your past. Everything's in your past, and everybody likes to suppress it down. And I've learned that you can't live like that with this. This isn't the same. It's you have to talk about it. You have to have somebody that's willing to talk to you. And when you don't have anybody, even if they don't understand, but they're willing to talk to you, that's more than not having anybody to talk to. And that's how I felt for the longest time. And now I have a wonderful counselor, and my family's starting to understand a little bit more, I think, but even that, I'm still the only person everybody around me knows, so they don't have anybody else to talk to about it. And that's why I'm hoping that they'll watch these and see, I'm not the only one. Other people are going through this. But my biggest hope is that we just reach people. As I look on Reddit, and I know you've seen it too, and probably other places, and I'm still learning about other places, people are contemplating suicide because they're alone, they're losing their homes and stuff. I can't do anything right now about anybody losing their homes. It's breaking my heart. I went from a four-bedroom house last year to an RV to have a smaller space so that I don't have to worry about so much space and having to take care of things. It was invigorating to get rid of a bunch of junk that I didn't need, but not everybody
Congratulations.
has that option, right? It was crazy, but not everybody has that option, and they don't have an option even to go home to someone. So what are they doing? That's another thing that I'm going to look into, and another project that I have working, and it'll come to fruit eventually, and everybody will hear about that. But in the meantime, what do we do now? I'm not exactly sure, but I'm hoping that we can at least offer people hope by sharing our stories. I
I
wish
love
I
it.
had lots of money to say, hey, I'm going to buy this apartment complex, and everybody with long COVID that can't, work, come live here. I just, unfortunately, I don't have that option, but I'm hoping one day that something will happen for the people that don't have anybody and aren't able to go out in the workforce or have the luxury of a work at home job. That was I was a chemical lab technician for 15 years. I used to be a welder and all kinds of stuff. No way can I do that now. I just lucked out by getting an at home job, But
I
what do we
think
do in this? Go ahead.
for most welding jobs, if someone shows up and just by putting the mask on, they fall to the ground, that's usually not what you're looking for in a welder. So, yeah, you're
Right.
probably right to set the torch aside for now.
Yeah, you see why the importance of that. Yeah.
It does bring its own host of complications. Well,
Yeah, I'm one of those people. I used to work on my cars, and I will tell you that my trunk little latch stopped working. So on Christmas Day, I went to get the presents out of my trunk for my family, and the trunk wouldn't open.
oh
So it
no.
took an act of Congress to get it open, but then I couldn't get it closed. So I had it tied with a string to keep it down. It wasn't closed. And Saturday, I got the part in from Rock Auto. I really love them. I'm advertising too. But I got the part in, and my neighbor helped me. He did most of the work. I did the rivets. He's like, I know you know what you're doing, but let me help you. And I was so grateful because just doing the little 9 little rivets going around, I was like, all right, I'm done wrestling this bear. And he just kind of looked at me, and that's how I feel like anytime I try to do something simple like that, it was literally 9 rivets, 2 screws, and pulling a little thing out and then putting it all back together. I couldn't do it. And I was just, it's like wrestling a bear. I've never wrestled a bear, but I can't imagine coming out of that fight even closely feeling like I've succeeded at all.
And it takes a while to get to the point, or at least for me, it took a while to get to the point that I was in touch with my body enough that I knew riveting and screwing and doohickeys would be too much. That I knew uh, my interaction with the garden and the weeds that have taken root there, it's beyond me right now. It's not an easy lesson. It wasn't an easy lesson for me to learn. To going back to my therapist, it wasn't easy for me to listen to my body whisper, so I never had to hear it scream. And I see a lot of long haulers going through a similar learning process of really understanding the new definition of ability that their body brings to the day, but not only understanding it, but respecting it. And I think those weeds in the garden got the better of me uh, a couple few times before I finally embraced them. And I'm happy to hear that uh, you let your neighbor help with the labor after you got quality parts at Rock Auto. Uh, because from the sounds of it, 5.5 years ago, uh, that trunk would have been uh, noticed on Christmas morning and fixed by Christmas afternoon. And now you are respecting your body enough to listen when it says, "No, ma'am, no, thank you. I'm not here to weld or rivet or any of that. If you need someone to take naps and walk very slowly to the bathroom and back, I gotcha. But beyond that, uh, please call someone else." So good for
Prior
you.
to Thanksgiving this year, I would have definitely called somebody else. And I don't know what happened. I was telling you that I could make it down my wheelchair ramp into a vehicle, but that was the farthest short distance that I could walk safely. And I say that because I would start sweating profusely and feel like I was going to pass out. And around Thanksgiving, something happened and I'm able to walk a little bit more. It's still painful, but something happened. It's better, but it's not better. Don't get me wrong. It's nothing like I'm anywhere close to where I was or nothing like that, but I'm able to take more steps. So when
Good for
I
you.
ordered the part, my neighbor was already here. He comes over in the mornings. We enjoy coffee and we'll shoot the crap, watch the football games or whatever. But he was already here and he's like, I'm going to help you. And I knew that was going to happen anyways. And I knew I probably wouldn't have been able to do the whole thing, but I was feeling good enough that I'm like, I'm going to try because I miss working on the cars. I miss being physical like that, and um, I tried it. I don't feel like a failure because I at least got, I think I got like five of those little rivets out and that was holding my arms up, which is the very hardest thing, but
Sure.
I felt like I did something. And I thanked him, immensely. I said, I know I only did this, but at least I felt like I contributed. And that made me feel better. So it's just little things sometimes too, celebrating and embracing the little wins that you get, I think
Oh,
helps as well.
absolutely. Those little victories, they mean so much for the soul. And
Absolutely.
those little victories add up. There's probably a time when you wouldn't have even been able to remove those few rivets. Good for you for accepting the help. That too is a can be a learning process to accept help without letting it be a reflection of self, a reflection of a shortcoming or a failure in ourselves. Forget that. We are accepting the help so we can save energy on this task and put it towards all the other things we need to do today to make tomorrow a little easier. Same
Absolutely.
with the wheelchair. Uh, I mean, it took me a long time, almost a year, to get a wheelchair it, because it took me longer than it should have to get my first cane. It took me longer than it should have to get the handicapped placard for my car. Longer than it should have to get my walker, which I call Texas Ranger. And it took me far longer than it should have to get my chair. And every time, uh, I think it was me standing in my own way. And I wasn't helping myself get better by trying to make it on my own steam. I was robbing myself of spoons that could be given to more meaningful tasks than walking from this parking spot way over there all the way to the doctor's office over here. How about I park close and roll in? Uh, and besides, I've got stickers all over my wheelchair and it looks great. So, uh,
I
uh,
still need the vehicle to move mine around, unfortunately. We have a little basket for the back of my mom's car.
ooh,
Weight limit
fancy.
is 450 pounds. The wheelchair is
Sure.
440, so it's starting to bend and yeah. But yeah, as far as I waited a long time too. I didn't even think it would be a possibility. I already had the manual wheelchair. I already had the walker. I already had the cane because people had given me those. I turned 50 last year, and my mom and my friends and family, there was nine of us all together, went on a cruise that was very scary for me for being so many people and stuff. Thank God I did not get sick, but somebody loaned me a scooter for that, which was a blessing. The unfortunate part is it wouldn't stay charged for a full day. And the last 2 days of the trip, it didn't want to stay charged at all. We don't know what happened. They had to push me back to the room. But after that, I asked my doctor, I was like, look, I mean, I borrowed one. Is this even a possibility? Because one of my friends that were on the trip with us said, just check, just ask your doctor. And I did, and she made it happen. And I was really impressed because I was like, man, I'm not old. They're not going to give me something like that. It was just my thought of it. Why would they give me something like that? I'm not, that's just the way I was thinking. I'm not old, right? But it was a very good blessing. Within, I think it was 3 months from start to end of the process that I had the wheelchair. And it was such a blessing, even though when I sat in it the first day, I cried because, that it was needed. it was appreciated, but it was the fact that I had to resort to that, you know?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. That comes with a lot of feels.
Yeah,
Somewhere in the past 5 years, I came across something that really stuck with me. Asking for help is not an admission of weakness. It is a show of strength. Uh, Borrowing that scooter, like your very wise friend said, just asking your doctor and using it when you need it. Uh, and it won't necessarily be something we need forever, but we need it today to get better
right.
tomorrow. Uh, I Now I turned 50 last year as well,
Well,
and
happy belated 50th birthday.
right back at you, sis. What I took from the experience is that walking, as much as we talk about it here, eh, it's for chumps and show-offs. Rolling is where it's at.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I roll around my neighborhood still, even though I can walk a little bit further. I like the fresh air. The RV park that I live on, I'm backed up to a river, and then it's just beautiful. It's just peaceful. It's outside of the city. I had lived in this city for 25 years since I moved to Texas. I born and raised in Michigan, ran from the cold, and that's what brought me to Texas. So I've lived in the same city, and around the city are the refineries and stuff that I worked in, you know. And just moving outside of the city, I think the air quality helped a little bit, but I'm
sure.
still close enough that it's not enough, you know. So that'll be my next adventure one day is to move away from this area and the refineries and stuff and see if that doesn't help my breathing and stuff because now I'm on oxygen at night and just sitting here talking makes it, I don't know if you can hear it, but the breathing gets harder the longer we talk and stuff like that. It's just part of the, like you said, the energy that you use, you know, and it's worth it to me. I'm not complaining. I would use all my spoons to talk to other people that are going through this because it's important to me just to talk to you. And then just knowing that others will hopefully feel the same way just by listening to the both of us just makes me feel even better. That's that's what I get out of it, you know. Not only do I
Yeah.
need to meet new friends, but hopefully just sharing stories will help people feel better. I
Well
would
put,
love
my friend.
to. I would love to interview your wife if you would talk to her and see if she would, because I would love to hear from a caretaker's point of view. My friend keeps telling me he's going to do it because he's been the one taking care of me for the last 2 years, pretty much. He didn't actually move in with me till a couple months ago, but he spent a lot of time at my house. He does the cooking because that's the hardest thing for me. Well, no, there's lots of hardest things, but everyday thing that I have to do, cooking is just not. I can put my cream of wheat in the microwave in the morning and anything over that he pretty much takes care of, and that helps out immensely.
I appreciate the offer, but uh, it likely would not happen with wifey because, well, for the same reasons, I haven't had her on my podcast. She's too close to it. Uh, she lives it, and on I think I think you've well. I have a show I've been doing for the past year called COVID is Stupid. And in it, I've been reading love letters that I've been writing to the long haul community for the past couple of years. Uh, for my first 2 years, I couldn't write. I was journaling, but it wasn't until I was 2 years in that I could write these love letters again. And then it was 2 more years before my lungs were strong enough to read them out loud. I think your audience could testify to the fact that a lot of editing has to go into making me sound like a speaker again. But in addition to these love letters, which are again silly, optimistic, positive, and acknowledging the heaviness of what we're dealing with while making jokes about it at the same time. Wifey listens to those. One of the other things I'm doing, I I mentioned my journaling. I've been reading my journals starting when I got sick, November 2020, and we I've been reading those on the air and trying again similar to what we were talking about earlier, having the feelings, talking about the feelings, and showing others they're not alone with their versions of the same. And I remember so little about that time frame. I am often hearing these stories along with the listener because I don't remember but it's in my handwriting, and why would I lie to myself?
Right.
Wifey can't listen to those. She, even some of the other ones, there's some. I had one where mid episode, my alarm went off on my phone. I got startled and it kicked off a 10-minute cascade of horrible abdominal spasms, which I narrated through because I felt it was important to acknowledge that reality because it's not my reality alone. It's all of our realities. We're all dealing, if not with abdominal spasms, our own laundry list of symptoms, and they're all real and they all suck. They they all a storm has come through our lives, and we are living in the aftermath that remains. And I have a hard time reading those journals without, or even talking about them apparently, without getting very emotional. Because I think I read this like I'm reading a story about somebody else, because I don't remember it. But this poor bastard dealing with everything I'm talking about in these journal episodes? That's me. Holy crap. That's awful. If I ever meet me, I'm going to tell me I feel bad for me. And wifey can't listen to those. She says she's too close to it. And I I respect her.
Absolutely.
I have not asked her or kiddo to be on the show. Uh, kiddo actually handles all my social media. I don't know any. Yeah,
I love that.
uh, yeah. If you need someone to post on Facebook and Instagram, it's very handy to have a live-in teenager because I can write things and say them out loud, but someone else has to post them. Ah,
I'm learning as I go, so
yeah,
yeah,
good on
I
you.
understand. It's been an adventure, and I'm still learning, and I'm still messing stuff up, but I am determined. Like I was making a video, we were blessed. I don't know if you saw this video, but we were blessed at Thanksgiving for 2 nights and then Christmas for 1 night at a hotel in Houston, Texas. A
I saw what you
beautiful
posted of
hotel.
it.
Yeah, so what made me sad though is I wanted to show the lobby of this because it's a huge, beautiful, gorgeous koi pond. And outside the hotel, it continues. The glass windows go into the water, but the fish still go in and out. I did not realize till I got home that I didn't get any of that part. And I'm so sad because there wasn't a lot of people at this hotel. I was able to sit in the lobby and I might have saw two or three people, but it's so big. The water, the sound of the water was so peaceful. And that's what I got out of all three of those nights that we were there is the peace and the atmosphere of that hotel. And I wouldn't have been able to afford it. It was a blessing that was given to us. But if I could find more places like that, I would be there probably a lot more. I say that and I say probably just because it was so peaceful and comfortable. And I think that is what needs to be part of everybody's routine too, is finding that peace. I think that we have to find peace in our everyday life in order to live through this because otherwise, when I was fighting it, because I wasn't one of those people that could relax, I didn't know what that meant. Like I was constantly on the go. So that was my biggest struggle is relaxing, especially because I wanted to keep going, even though my body was fighting. But now it's more of finding the peace. What brings me peace? I don't like being home alone just because I don't know. I feel like and that's new. That's a new feeling. It wasn't something that I've had all my life, but I think now it's just comforting, I think, having somebody around.
Sure,
But I think the peace is the most important thing is trying to find peace in your situation. And I don't even know.
you know
That's the struggle.
that video you mentioned. Uh, I'll tell you what I noticed about that watching it. First of all, uh, you sitting having a conversation explaining why and how you were there, an immense feeling of gratitude radiated through the screen.
Oh,
And
good.
then you were so excited you wanted to show your new COVID friends the beautiful space that you were in and how calming and peaceful it was. And we saw about 4 seconds of pond, and then it went black. And that seemed like a strange place to end, but you're your own creative director, Penny. But that you put a comment in that video saying, I didn't realize I wasn't recording. But similar to how you're talking about it now, it didn't sound like you were beating yourself up for it. It sounded like you had already, in the moment, accepted it and found peace in it and had moved on because your body has other things it needs to worry about. So I thought it was a
Absolutely.
very human moment. How we, and boy, isn't that a good metaphor for long hauling. It's it's not, we're not defined by what we lost. We're not defined by what wasn't on the video. We're defined by what remains, what we
Yes.
did get to see, and what we do with it. And what you did was put a comment showing that you had accepted and moved on and found peace with it. And may we all take a lesson from that.
And I hope to one day go back out there and do it the way I wanted it to. Because when you feed the fish, it's really cool. I'm going to get onto this for just a second. I know it's just fish, but I am a nature buff and I've never seen koi fish so big.
Yeah.
And then when you feed them, they actually jump on each other and you hear all these slippery fish. It's the coolest thing. And I did record that, but you just didn't get to see that.
Well, I'm just
I'm
going
going
to
to
take your
ask
word on it then.
I'm going to ask you one more question, then I'm going to let you go only because I can see this is probably going to start getting more and more tiring, and I don't want to
Yeah,
keep you longer and make it keep happening.
I'm
My
about
last
at my
question,
limit, so thank you for respecting that.
me too. I start getting tired, and I know. I know you've given a lot of people advice through our conversation, and I absolutely love it. If there's one thing that you hope they take away from our conversation, what would be that one thing that you would want them to take away?
We are still here. You are still here. You're still in this fight, and you have so much more left to give the world. It's not, like I just said, it's not the things we lost. It's not the things we can't. It's not the things we don't. It's the things we can and the things we have and the things we will do. You are still here, and I am damn proud of you. That would be my message.
Yes, yes, indeed. Thank you so much. Y'all, if you like our videos, I'm going to share his YouTube in the description. If you like what you're watching, if it is helping you at all, please like, share, and subscribe to our channels. All we want to do is help other people. That's our biggest um, thing that we're trying to do here. You're not alone. You do matter. You are worthy of so much more than what you think you are right now. You've got this. And we're here just to help you and just show you that we're here for you too. All right, I'm going to stop this and then we'll talk for a second.